Good morning. You're listening to 1320 AM WCBG, The Voice. Good afternoon. Sorry. This is another episode of OKaye. Let's be Frank. I'm Kay. This is Frank.
Hey, every Wednesday,
Every
Frank.
Wednesday.
It's afternoon.
I try to get biscuits and gravy from McDonald's. They weren't having it. They weren't having it. But anyway. So welcome everybody. Man, it's been an early day, early morning so far. What are you doing?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun. Anywho. Jesus, I don't know what's going on there. Anyway. So, we went over to Cincinnati State today and talked to some kids. Or talked to a lady about talking to some folks. It was pretty cool. Hopefully we get some stuff going that way. Get some help with the old brand and all that. So, I don't know. Anyway, first off, I'd like to give a shout out to New Reality. Thank you guys for your support. Every Friday, 6 p.m. at Fort Mitchell Baptist Church. Come check them out. They feed you. Great message at 7. Starts at 6. Message at 7 and a meeting at 8. Some really cool people get you connected where you need to be, and have a good message from the Lord for sure. Give a shout out to Jesse down at Flip Daddies down in Newport. Oh, Jesse Onate, go check him out. Good atmosphere, great food. Man's got a heart of God for sure. New Hope Christian Center, thank you all for your support and love. Bible study tonight at 7. 941 Central Avenue. And go ahead.
Man, the Refinery Church of the Nazarene.
Refinery
Maysville,
Church of the
Kentucky.
Maysville, Kentucky. Heck yeah. Shout out to all you folks.
Man, one of these days he'll learn.
One of these days. It'll take me forever. I was in class with a girl named Ayanla. Ever don't learn how to say that. Ayanla. I don't know, I'll mess it up, but whatever.
Go figure.
Yeah, go figure. I'd like to throw out this announcement. New Hope Church of Newport, Kentucky is sponsoring an event on April 19th, Good Friday, from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Everyone is invited to walk with us and carry the cross through the streets of Newport and gather with us at the end of the route at the World Peace Bell. God has laid upon our hearts to declare over the people of Newport and the neighboring cities that He is the God of the city and the Lord of the people in and around it. Please join us as we read the declaration God has given us together, taking up our cross and following our Lord. Starting time at 11 a.m., 941 Central Avenue, Newport, Kentucky, with a service to follow, spoken by Brother Kevin Johnson at the World Peace Bell. For more information, please contact Sandy Hill Turner at 859-512-0885 or Catherine Daner at 859-462-0921. Mark 8:34, and when he had called the people unto him with his disciples also, he said unto them, whosoever will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. April 19th, 11 a.m. Check it out. It's going to be killer.
So, anything new happening in your life, Frank?
Let's see here. Nothing really new. Yeah.
Nothing exciting.
Well, no, I was super excited. Like, I get to hang out with the kids today. They got a new dresser. So I had the privilege of last time when I picked them up, or when I went over there on Sunday, I had the privilege of having to yell at them to clean up the room because apparently their mom told them and Billy told them, and they didn't want to do it. And then, so I go in there and I'm like in the middle of it, picking up some toys and stuff. Dominic leaves his room, and I hear the basketball start. We got the little basketball hoop on the back of the door in the living room. I said, I know you were not out here playing on ball while I'm sitting there with these toys in my hand. And his mom said, that's what he does. I was like, not today. Well, you better get in here. And then it's so funny because, like,
kids.
well, it's a trip, man, because they're little me's. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like,
Oh,
I can't
Lord,
be
help
mad.
us.
I don't really get mad. It's just, it's funny to watch. I'm like, man, sorry, mama. You know, I got to go back to saying, I'm sorry to my mama. But, no, it's, he goes, what do you say? He's always all about it. And he's super smart, right? You know, he's a super smart kid. When it comes to like cleaning up stuff or whatever, all of a sudden, I don't know where to put it. I don't know what to do. I'm like, dude, any other time you're the smartest kid in the world. Now all of a sudden
Right.
you don't know what's going on.
Right.
I was like, come on, man,
Right.
be silly like that.
Right.
So,
Dalton does me the same way. He's like, oh, if I'm in the room or present, I don't know how to do it anymore. What do you mean? How did you forget? You were doing just fine a while ago.
It's in the child handbook.
Yeah. Apparently, because I'm like, I was just in that other room. You were taking care of everything just fine by yourself. I walked in here and it's like you forgot everything.
Right.
What
Right.
happened? No, it don't work like that. I love
So
kids.
funny.
They're so funny. They're going to get away with what they can get away with. That's for sure.
We're gonna try it anyway.
Mhm.
So
Metaphor for life.
so we told him they got a new show. So mom said that their mother said that they wanted to they were either gonna chuck all their stuff or donate it or whatever. So I was like, there was a pile of clothes because I had to work last Sunday night, so I didn't have much time with them. So we cleaned up the majority of stuff, bagged up a bunch of toys, but there was a pile of clothes on the floor, and they've got these two little shelves that they're gonna get rid of and replace it with bookcase or whatever, dressers or whatever. And but it's chock full of like old Legos and cars and all this bunch of stuff. So I was like, decide what you want to do with it, with all this stuff. You know, obviously you're gonna keep your Xbox and your TV and those things, but everything else bothers you. We just toss it all in a bag and take it up to Goodwill. So they were supposed to have done this, bagged everything up, and I told them that I would come over today after school and take everything to Goodwill, donate everything or whatever, and help get the new dresser in, whatever. You know, has Boys on the Run, which he was like, I want you to be my running buddy. And I'm like, excuse me? Running? Does that mean I have to run?
How many times have you been out practicing that?
Like I said, I was telling you guys before we started this thing, we've been playing a little bit of basketball or whatever, but body ain't bouncing back as quick as it used to, you know? But
Make sure you do your stretches.
man,
Get plenty of rest. Drink lots of water. Bring you a banana or two.
I got till May, whatever. It's Boys on the Run. They're I think they're doing the flying pig deal. So I gotta be ready for that. I think it's May 5th. I think it's what she said. I don't know. I got about a month. Let's see how it goes.
Get yourself in shape.
5K.
You can walk 5K.
That's what I said. That's why I was like, can I walk some of it?
Right. Can you walk?
Hopefully.
Like you can do that for sure. I've seen you do it. So maybe.
Was that a 5K we walked?
We walked over 6 actually.
No, I wouldn't.
Yes,
6K.
yes,
Was
actually.
it really?
Yes, it was. It was over 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
And it probably wouldn't have been so bad if it wasn't so cold. That's what made my legs hurt the way they did. Because my legs got so cold. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was kind of a fun day though.
Oh yeah, that was a blast. I had a good time. I need to check into when the autism walk is. I guess the school let me know so we can do the autism walk at Coney Island. I did that last year too.
The autism walk.
Mhm.
That's what's up.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah. Oh man, super crazy. Super crazy. So yeah, I mean that's really the only new stuff that's going on, I guess. We had fun playing basketball, that's for sure. But we're picking up today and donate some stuff and hang out. That's about it. The weather's gonna get super warm, and that's pretty cool this weekend. It's gonna be nice. March Madness starts tomorrow. Heck yeah, first round starts on Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
Heck yeah. So that puts us one more week closer to opening day. Reds baseball starts. And it's usually, I'm not that big of a baseball fan, but where I work at, oh, it's going to be glorious. Oh, cannot wait. Glorious. Anyway.
No, I haven't done anything, so I don't have nothing to report back. My life is so.
You were just telling us how you.
I mean, I went to Grief Share, but that was last night, and did some video work with one of my graduates at school for her basketball thing. But really, that's pretty much it. There was nothing in depth too much of it. A lot of course, I can't share anything with Grief Share except for that it was a good thing, and it definitely lets you know you're not alone, you know. But when you have God on your side, you're not alone anyway. Sometimes to bring that into perspective is what is needed. So
Very true. Very true.
it's like, what do you? So we go around and we introduce ourselves and you know why we're there or whatever. So I'm like, I can't tell you why. Like, there's not one death. I'm like, there's been, I don't know, 12 in my current life from 2007 to now that I have not dealt with any of them. So over 12 losses that I'm going, but the biggest loss is the loss of myself, or not really the loss of myself, but the finding of myself, the loss of my old self and the finding of my new self. That's the biggest thing that I'm dealing with right now. So, and it's glorious, but it's also, strange because it's a new chapter. So today has been a year since I started Ohio Media School, and I graduated. I'm done. It's over with. But I think the thing is like I look back over that year and look at all of the things that have happened in that year's time, all of the changes, all of the just been so massively different in a year's time. It's kind of crazy. So it's a good thing, though.
Definitely a good thing.
Definitely
It's
a good
so funny
thing.
if you try to look like a year ahead or whatever. It seems like a year seems so far away, and when you look back on the last year, it seems like it went by so
It
fast.
was so fast.
You know what I mean? It's crazy how our perception of these things are. You know, we look at these things like long term or whatever. Say if we have like a weight loss goal or something like that, man, it's so unattainable. It's gonna be so far away. But then a year from now, you're like, dude, that happened so quick. Where's the time gone? You know, we were just sitting here talking about our kids and stuff, and Haley's gonna be 16 in a couple of weeks, you know, and Dalton just turned 16, and it's like, geez, nice, really, stuff has happened so daggone quick. I was laying around thinking, I met Haley. Haley was a year old, and her mother and I got together 16 years ago. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is nuts. It's been a wild ride.
It
A lot
is.
of it I don't really remember, but 16 years flies by.
It's
And I think
definitely.
that's why it is so important to remember when you're going through a storm, when something crazy happens, you got to remember that God's by your side, and it's not going to last forever. Think about the things that were world ending a year ago, 5 years ago. Oh my goodness, this is just, how am I going to go on? How am I going to live? You don't even worry about it anymore.
Right.
You know, you have to move on, you know, and more often than not, it's for the better, you know. Especially when you allow Christ to really guide your next steps, you know. Nothing we can do about the ones we've already taken.
Right.
But when you allow Him to guide your next steps, saying nothing to see them, you know what I mean?
It is crazy because, you know, and I've said it before, we've said it on the show, God's the one that got me going to the school. That was a year ago today. It was my first day of class, a year ago today. A year ago, there was no way on earth that I would have ever thought I was going to be on the radio. And here I am, a year later, on the radio. What? That is crazy. And all of the things that went along with all the transitions, you know, and it's just like we get caught up in the moment of we're in this thing, you know, whatever it is, the funk, even the excitement of new challenges or whatever, but we get caught up in that moment, and it's like when you want it to hurry, or slow down, but then the next thing you know, it's a year later, and you're like, whoa, wait, whoa, really slow down, because this is taking off too quick. You know, I don't know how to deal with it. Right. So he's just like, just let me guide you, and I'll take care of it. That's pretty much what I'm trying to get at. Is this whole time I've been like, whoa, I don't get this, and he's just like, just let me guide you. I've got you. It's okay. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that, because I don't have another choice. So here we are.
It's such a trip, especially to go from not allowing him to guide to allowing him to guide. I mean, it's a stretch, you know, from where I come from, you know, to allow him to do these things in your life, to actually step out in faith and just really understand that he's got it. At first, it's difficult. It's a difficult thing. You know, we talked about the story in Mark a couple of weeks ago where Jesus came to the synagogue, you know, and when you think about him healing the man's hand, I heard a different word come about that story today. It wasn't, God didn't touch him and heal him. You know, like a lot of the stories, Jesus touches the eyes so they can see, or, you know, touches the leper's skin or whatever and heals it or whatever. With this particular man whose hand was withered, he didn't touch him to heal him. He told him to stretch his arm out. And it wasn't Jesus speaking it into reality, which he could have done. It was a challenge to the man. Believe me or don't.
Believe me or don't, right.
Stretch your arm out and see what happens.
Right.
And the guy, when he stretches his arm out, that action in faith was the thing that healed him.
Right.
And that is something that's so, I don't think we understand that. You know what I mean? And that's something deep. As I was hearing that, I was like, wow, that's so true. You know what I mean? You go back and you read the story again, it's like, he didn't touch him. It wasn't physically Jesus. It was the faith of the man in Jesus and what he could do.
Right. It was the same with the one that touched his cloak. She just had so much faith that all she had to do was touch his garment. All she had to do was touch his garment. That's how much faith she had.
Still, and the thing about, I mean, you're not wrong, but the thing about, there was no physical interaction at all between Jesus and this man in the synagogue. You know what I mean? This woman crawled all the way through town and went through tons of people who had written her off, because she went through 14 years or something with this problem.
Right.
And everybody had written her off.
But I mean, how much faith does it take to crawl through town just to say, if I can just touch this man's clothing, I don't need to talk to him. I don't need him to touch me. I don't need him to acknowledge me. I don't even want him to know I'm here. I just want to touch his clothes. That's it. And she crawls through town and she touches his clothes, and instantly he knew she was there. Like, oh, you know, what happened? And what kind of strong faith is that? That's amazing.
Huge in your life, for sure. For sure.
It's just knowing that he's going to take care of it. and believing and knowing and having faith and stepping out and doing it. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm just going to continue to go on.
True. And it's like one of the things is that we have to, our actions have to start lining up with what we're trying to portray or whatever. And that's what I was reading earlier in Ephesians, where it talks about being in line, your actions being in line with your calling and all this. So starting in Ephesians 4, unity of the Spirit. And that's kind of as we talk about, the walking with the cross down in Newport. This unity in the community idea. Unity, when you bring, the prayer says, the Lord's Prayer says to bring the kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. That has to start with love, trust, and unity. We literally have to trust one another and love as God loves us. So the thought of unity has to stay in the forefront of our minds. I posted something the other day about you can't move forward if you're carrying your hurts of your past and portraying them onto the next person. You have to love as if you've never been hurt. Think about all the stuff that was said about Jesus and all of the hatred that he had to battle, all the bad things he had to endure. He didn't change his message. He didn't change his message. His mission was to love, no matter what. At first, everybody was just kind of, well, maybe, whatever. But then people started to follow him. In that story about the synagogue or whatever, it says when he left, he was followed by a multitude. Ton of people were following him. They were unified under his message. So Ephesians 1 says, "So I, the prisoner for the Lord, appeal to you to live a life worthy of the calling to which you have been called. That is, to live a life that exhibits godly character, moral courage, personal integrity, and mature behavior. A life that expresses gratitude to God for your salvation with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in unselfish love." Now, that's the first 3 verses. And there's so much in there. When you live a life worthy of the calling, first off, are you listening enough to understand what your calling is? Or are you trying to impose your own will? That's one question you gotta ask yourself. I talk a lot about some pastors want to make sure that their point gets across. And they're more or less imposing their will and not just spreading God's love and having God's will be done. So as evangelists or teachers or preachers or whatever, are you sure what your calling is? Do you understand? Do you know 100%? This is God doing this. This is God telling me to be here. Everything's working out. Jeff always talks about that feeling in your gut. Are you having that feeling? Or are you trying to make something happen that's just not there? That's something you have to ask yourself. When you're stuck in the mud, your wheels are turning. You ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? You can hit that gas all you want. And what I mean by that is you can join this group. You can be active in your church. You can tell everybody on Facebook how spiritual and full of faith you are. But if you're not unified with the Spirit actually and letting the Spirit lead you to these things, you're just doing it for personal gratification. And you're only going to get personal gratification. There will be no fruit bore from doing this out of your own will.
Then again, it comes back to: are we doing it for ourselves, or are we doing what He wants us to do? Is it our plan and project and everything, or is it His?
Right.
So which one are we doing?
Right. Absolutely.
For sure. So when you understand what your calling is from God, not your calling on your life, but His calling on your life, you then have the responsibility to live a life worthy of that calling. And that means what you let in, you let win. If you're really listening to God, things will start changing around you. You won't see the TV the same way. You won't hear songs the same way. You won't the jokes that people tell at work won't be funny anymore.
Right.
If God is really getting a hold of you, those are the things that you look at.
Right.
Check it out. I'm like, dude, that's not funny. I don't find that funny. Why don't you find it funny? Because God is really doing a work on me.
Right.
So I want to hear more of what He's got to say. I can't hang around this crap. Now you have a choice. You can choose to hang around or kind of snicker or throw a joke back at them or whatever.
Look at them like they're crazy. What? I don't get it.
No, what I'm saying is, like, you can choose
what I would do.
You can choose to stay in that moment, or you can choose to say, God, like, what? Give me something to say. It's not too often when you really start to get in tune with Jesus and His message. It's not too often that He's not going to give you something to say back, or some way out of a situation, or something encouraging that you can give to that person in that moment. But you got to listen. You got to want to do it. You got to want to hear that and want to be a positive light in the dark moments. So that's what it kind of looks like to live a life worthy of your calling that God has placed on your life. You want to exhibit godly character, moral courage, personal integrity, and mature behavior. Mature behavior. Now that's one that is super elusive to a lot of folks, and I mean myself included. There's a lot of times where I'm a goofball anyway, but I've learned through things, and I use my relationship with my children's mom as an example. There's a lot of things we don't agree on, but just like when I went to pick them up on Sunday, she was telling me about them not cleaning up their room. Now, I could have been immature about the situation, and I could have said, well, it's your house, make it happen, or whatever, made it a bigger issue than it was. Or I could have taken the mature route, which I think I did, and just looked at the kids and was like, I don't care if you like it or not, your mom, respect your mom, regardless. Her and I aren't together. And again, we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. But respecting your mother, it's a biblical principle.
Right.
So the mature thing to do is teach the biblical principle.
Right.
Whether I agree or not, respect your mom. We need to be adults and figure out the other stuff. But that's a principle, a foundational principle.
Right.
That they need to know. So I feel like that I took the mature route. And it's always been that way. I don't speak ill of her to them, in front of them, around them at all. Very little of our conversations are ever about her anyway, because I think that the mature thing is for us to enjoy our time together while I have it. You know, I feel like it's immature and petty of me to want to interfere in anything else other than my kid's life.
And I don't think we want to look at that principle thing as being something small. It's not. Those lessons need to be learned so that as they grow up, they start modifying their behavior to a positive thing. And if they're never taught the principle that you respect your mom, you respect your dad, they may not respect anybody.
True.
Right.
True.
So it's real important. That's a really important thing.
Very true. Very true. It is so important to think before you act, and especially like when it comes to our kids and setting up a foundation for them, but also with the people that we commune with, the people that we work with, the people that we are around a lot. There's not a lot of light in this world anymore. So anytime that we have a chance to be that light, we have to exhibit that. We don't really have a choice. With our constituents, especially, at work, I get a little frustrated sometimes because of some of the people I work with and some of the attitudes, and it's just like some of the things are just like, what? I don't get it. But the mature thing, I think, is to understand that they don't get the love of Jesus. I may be the only thing that they see that is even relatable to that. And it was just the other day that something came up. This guy I work with, he's just out of rehab or whatever, not rehab, but he's in recovery. Anyway, and I kind of told him that, like I need to watch myself, like how I speak and the things like that. Because restaurant language, it's man, all bets are off, man. It's any and everything's on the table. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm just I'm only a couple of years into this new walk thing, you know what I mean? So there's a lot to get rid of. But the mature thing is, I think, to hold myself accountable by telling people, hey man, listen, if you hear me speaking out or you hear me doing something, whatever, out of the way, check me on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to do that. Kind of hold myself accountable, letting everybody know where I stand on things and those types of things. So there was a guy the other day, and I can't remember what I said, but he just looked at me and said, what did you say to me earlier? And I was like, oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha. They called it, there was a sermon actually on it a few years ago. If my dude Taiwan was on here, he'd tell you, we need to be each other's sheepdogs. You know what I'm saying? Like, to kind of wrangle each other in. And at the time, Taiwan and I were working at Applebee's, and this was back in the day. Well, I was a wreck. I would say it was at least every 10 minutes I'm hearing sheepdog. He's like, bro, calm it down, bro. That's it. What'd you say? All type of stuff. Anyway. But to act mature is it's a big thing, and that can be. We all have issues that are holding us back from, I guess, stepping more out or becoming closer to God, if you will. But we have to understand that we have these issues. We can't keep acting like that it's everybody else that has the issues, or the problem is us. The problem is what we have going on. I can't tell you how many times I went to church with Granny, and she would say, boy, I wish your brother was here to hear this sermon. That'd have really got him. I've heard people say, I wish my sister was here to hear this. They're not. That was for you. You were supposed to do it. You were supposed to get something out of that message that wasn't for anybody else. God's got a word for everybody else, for sure.
There's a case that I've had in the last year where it's been in the year, I guess, maybe a year and a half, where I thought I had a real heavy heart for my cousin. She was struggling with her alcoholism and was really struggling with it. And I was just like, what can I do to help her? I don't know what to do to help her. There's nothing I can do. And she's like my best friend, like my sister, So anyway, the point is the sermon at church. I was like, man, if Marty could just hear that, forget it. Go hit my knees and go and pray intercession for her. Forget, I wish she could hear it. Go pray for her. And that's exactly what I did. And immediate recovery started happening. I was like, woohoo! which was great because she had been struggling. And I'm not saying that I think she's been alcohol free now for over a year, which is awesome, really, or whatever this time frame is. But I know she struggled, and she has struggled, and she has struggled. But now I just had that real heavy thing for her. The burden was for her, and I went and prayed in intercession for her. And
intercession is critical. I mean, there are so many things that we try to do ourselves and we can't get through. We can't get over the hump, no matter how hard we try or how long we try. But somebody praying for you, it says two that agree will send thousands of angels to flight into circumstances.
When two
or
people
more
agree
agree.
in my presence, in my midst or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And when that happens, all of a sudden, the spiritual realm breaks. Okay, and what is holding a person is broken. And when that's broken, then you're more free to be able to accomplish what you're trying to get done. As before, it's like you could have done everything and it didn't seem to work. But with people praying for someone, it can break that bondage or burden that the enemy has placed upon that person in whatever that area is.
right.
You know?
Well, and I mean, to that point, I think that's kind of what we're talking about is the unity. You know, part of our responsibility as a community is to touch and agree for somebody else. You know what I mean? To be intercessories for certain people. That's kind of our responsibility. Once you understand your calling, then it becomes your responsibility to do those things, to pray for aunts and uncles and cousins and brothers and coworkers and everybody. You know?
And like what Kay said about the sermon, you were thinking about your relative, but he was telling you to pray.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And a lot of times that'll just come up from inside that, oh, pray for this person.
Right.
You know,
right.
And you don't even know why.
Right. I went.
You're sitting there having a
when
good day, everything's going fine. All of a sudden, pray for whoever.
I went to the altar, you know, it was pastor was like, "What are you praying about, Kay?" You know, and I was like, "Man, this is just strictly for her." Like, I was moved to get up and move, not just sit there in my chair, but literally get up and go to the altar and hit my knees for her. Was moved for her to do so, and that was amazing.
That was the change agent.
Right.
What made it change.
Right. Well, like the guy reaching his hand out, you know, it was that act that healed his hand. You know, it was her act of getting up out of the chair that enabled God to work.
That was the step of faith.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know you're going to take care of this, you know. So prayer is powerful. People don't think it's powerful, but man, it is it is so powerful. So powerful. It's just, I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how to explain it because I've seen it work over and over and over and over and over again. So I understand how powerful it is, but to explain that to somebody, it's really hard.
Well, the evidence is there, though.
Right.
You use the illustration about your relative and how she changed after that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the result, is really the evidence and the testimony, you know. But yeah, I mean, and we got to be more cognizant to realize when he's talking to us about that kind of thing, you know?
Right.
Because it's not just us that's involved; it's somebody else, you
Right.
know. And he looks to you and says, "Well, I know Frank will pray for this person. I know he will."
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he tells you, right? Because he knows that, and he knows that you will pray, and that will break through for that other person. So it's really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Super important. And I think that goes with the maturity that we were talking about, to being able to do what he tells you to do when he says to do it. I know some of my maturity struggles have been that exact thing. Like, he says something, I'm kind of like, I'm not, you know,
What's up, Aaron? How are you?
I'm not, my maturity level isn't all the way where it needs to be, you know, because of those things, that exact thing. I mean, I've told you the story about the guy at the gazebo when I was waiting on the bus. That was distinctly God telling me to go talk to that guy, and I told him no 3 times. Worst day of my life. I had the worst day of my life. It was, but it was an example of my immaturity.
But we're all the same that way.
Right.
It's not exclusive to any one person.
Right.
We all, maybe we're really super busy that day, and the Lord intercedes there and says, do this. And it's like, I can't do that. I got all these other things to do. And we don't follow through. We're all that way.
Right.
And we got to give ourselves a little bit of slack too sometimes.
No, I'm not allowed to give any slack at all.
Well, we're not perfect. I was once, about 40 years ago.
No.
That was another part of the scripture. It says, with patience, bearing with one another in love. So yeah, it's giving each other a little slack. You know what I mean? That's
I think
because it is the ultimate thing is about doing things out of love. That doesn't mean you pump somebody with a Bible every chance you get, or point out every aspect that's wrong with the situation. Love them through it.
Oh, that's the thing. Just love them through it. That's what God does. That's what Jesus does. He loves you through it. Oh, this is crazy and I don't understand it. He's like, come here. Let me hold you. Let you cry. Whatever. Help you pull your big girl panties up. Whatever it takes. Whatever it needs to be done. He's there. He does that. He does that for you. And when you just realize that he really does do that for you, it makes it so much easier. So much easier. It doesn't mean that it's going to always be easy, because that's not what I'm saying. Life is not easy, but it makes it easier to know and understand that he's there. Always.
There is one body of believers and one spirit, just as you were called to one hope when called to salvation. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of us all, who is sovereign over all and working through all and living in all. When we talk about this unity thing, we all have to be like-minded, unified under one God, our sovereign God. He's the King. When we talk about kingdom, who's the ruler of the kingdom?
Do you think that it's hard for Americans themselves to understand the idea of kingdom because we don't have kingdom living?
Well, that's what I was getting at. Who's the leader? Who leads the kingdom?
Right, the king.
The king. And when
in Europe it's the queen, but go ahead.
When you are in the land, we use the queen as an example. In the land, who makes all the decisions?
The monarch.
The queen. All right. In the entire, and I mean that goes from the peasants all the way up to his right hand man or her right hand man. All the decisions are made by the king or queen. So to understand that kingdom, you may have to go back and look at some medieval things, the medieval times, and understand what a kingdom was way more than a palace. It was way more than a castle. It was the entire land was ran by the king.
Oh, absolutely.
He had the dominion over it.
Right,
over everything.
absolutely.
Yes, dominion.
It's like
That's
Queen Elizabeth.
It's so crazy that you brought all this up because I've got all these definitions and it's like I got all this written down. We did some research on this a couple weeks ago actually, but, and it was so fascinating to really, when you really think about, we have in our land a democracy. We've got the 3 branches of government. In a monarchy, there's one person who has final decision, final say over everything.
Right.
It's dominion over the territory, I think is what it is. And that's, you think about all the decisions that have to be made. When we think that our problems are too small for God, or our situation isn't, he's I'm not worthy of him to worry about my situation. Think about all the things a king has to make decisions on in a kingdom.
Right.
Everything, you know, from where we're going to plant this garden to where we're going to keep the horses. What are we going to do? You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many. How are we going to eat? Where are we going to raise the pigs? Where are we going to raise the boars? Where are we going to, you know what I mean? And then when he has children, how are they taught? What are they going to do? You know what I mean? He takes care of everything. So when we talk about one sovereign God, that's a really, you're talking kingdom. He's the king.
Right.
Over the kingdom. And you're right. I don't think people don't understand that.
Right.
A lot of people nowadays, they idolize technology. So wanting to be famous or be seen or whatever, that trumps any type of education as far as what spirituality really is. You know what I mean? And building my maturity in this and what kingdom thinking is all about.
Well, remember, the people of the kingdom, they're servants of the king.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that identifies what our role is.
Right.
To be servants of the king. And also subject to that king as to what he is asking us to do. Okay? He says, do this, you do it. Okay? Because he's the king and you're a servant.
Right.
Okay? And this is the mindset of a kingdom.
Right.
Right?
Very true.
Most people aren't willing to be servants.
That's true.
Very true.
That's
Okay.
true.
Good point.
Absolutely.
I want to be served.
Served.
Right.
Right. I'm not
be a
serving
servant,
somebody.
right?
Right.
And that's where most people live.
Which
Yeah.
means they want to be their own king, their own queen, their own God. It's all me.
Which is rebellion
Rebellion.
against the king.
Absolutely.
Okay? And that's where most people live, whether they think about it that way or
Right.
not.
Right.
Okay? If they go off and do something that in their gut says don't do it, and they do it anyway,
Right.
it's rebellion.
Right.
Right?
Very true.
Now, what happens is there are consequences for the rebellion.
Right.
You know, you buy the $500 car a month, you can't pay for it, they come and tow it away with a little truck.
Right.
Okay? That's what happens. Okay?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
but he told you don't buy that car, buy the $150 car. You
Right.
can afford the $150
No, but
car.
I want to have the big,
Right.
better one. I want it to be more flashy and more
Shiny.
whatever, and I want to outdo my neighbor. Why?
Right.
See, this is my thing. It's like you can't take any of this stuff with you when you die. Really?
Right.
Why are you living for earthly things? You are supposed to live and think about living for
Because
the
they're
kingdom and eternity.
because they're thinking of being served,
Right.
not being a servant.
It's the maturity we were talking about.
Right.
For sure. You can deal with being a servant the more mature and closer you get to him. I want a servant, you know what I mean? For all the things he's done for me, you know, it's
Well, that's a mind change, though,
I'm in debt.
right?
Well, right. And I guess that's where the whole thing is, reforming of your mind and changing your mind. That's where
Your
you
new
have to
creation.
really take into effect, like when you've accepted him, when you've really accepted him to be your Lord, then your old you dies and a new you comes alive. And that new you that comes alive is who you have to nurture and teach and regrow and retrain, because the old you is going to be like, no, I want to be resurrected. And you're like, you're dead. It's history. It's over. The new you is here. And so for me, like, that's my constant thinking is no. The new OKaye is here.
Someone once said, if you want to know about a person's maturity as a Christian, just check his checkbook.
Yeah.
See what he pays his money on.
Right.
Does he spend money on frivolous things and then not give anything to God, not give anything to organizations that are going to help people or whatever?
Mhm.
Where does the money go? Okay?
Right.
And it's not that you can't have nice things and all that. That's fine. But you can't let money have you.
Right.
Okay? That's
You
when
can't
it's a
serve
problem.
both. You can't serve love and or God and money. You can't do it.
That's very true. That's an excellent point.
The more you serve God, the more He's going to give you anyway, because He's going to give you more than you could have ever thought about wanting.
That's right.
We're living proof right here in just this show. He gave us more than we could have ever thought about expecting, wanting, thinking about. We didn't think about this. It's just wow. It's just wow.
Wow.
Wow. It is. It is so crazy because, I don't know. I just know, like, I didn't think anything about this. This was not on my radar. This was not what I was supposed to be doing, what I thought I was not supposed to be doing, you know? And just by following his okay, check into that school command, you know? Okay. And here I am.
Yeah. Big doors are open with little keys.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
That is
So
true.
awesome. So awesome. Oh man. So love one another, grow in your maturity, and grow into one God, sovereign God.
That only wants what's best for you. He only wants what's best for you, and He knows what's best for you. You don't know what's best for you. You know what you think is best.
We have no clue what's
Right.
best for us.
You know what you think is best for you, but you don't know what's best for you. And when He proves that to you, He shouldn't have to prove it to you a million times over, because that just means you're a stubborn, rebellious child. Maturity level, maybe.
Right.
But when you accept it, that He knows what's best for you, and those desires of the flesh, if you just give it time and deny it, they will stop. They will.
You're talking pretty good. Verse 11 in Ephesians 4. His gifts to the church were varied, and He Himself appointed some as apostles, which are special messengers, representatives, some as prophets, who speak a new message from God to the people, some as evangelists, who spread the good news of salvation, and some as pastors and teachers, to shepherd and guide and instruct. And He did this to fully equip and perfect the saints, God's people, for works of service, to build up the body of Christ, quote unquote, the church. He did this not so we could have mega churches, not so that we could have special groups, not so that I could get a title or position in church, but He did this to fully equip and perfect the saints for works of service. We go out to the community and do these works of service. We tell people about Him and His salvation. We are servants. We are His servants. And that's such a great point you brought up, that in the kingdom, you know, everybody serves the King. He's our King. We got to think about it like that. And you're absolutely right.
I mean,
that a lot of people want to be served. They don't think about being a servant and how beneficial they can be to someone else. They want everybody to be beneficial to them. You know, I think about, while you were saying that, I was thinking about Joseph being in prison for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And while he was there, he didn't give up on God. He was still serving while he was there. He became like the head guy in jail, right? And then the king sent for him. He didn't sit down there and complain. He didn't sit down there and act like that, woe is me, everybody's picking on me or whatever. My brothers left me and tried to kill me and all this bunch of stuff. He was like, well, make the best of a bad situation, I guess. You know, at least these people need to hear about God and what He does, you know, whatever. And then the king sent for him as a dream interpreter, but he ultimately became the king's right-hand man and wound up running the country. Even though he became that high up and got position, he was still the king's servant. And that's, I think you're absolutely right in bringing that up, that we don't understand that enough. Even if, you know, you start off, say in the restaurant world, you start off as a busboy, dish guy, whatever. You work your way up to the server, bartender, you work your way up to management, you become a general manager or whatever. you're still
You're
serving
still
the
serving,
company.
right?
You're still serving the company. You
Right.
still got a boss.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're never going to get to a point where you don't have a boss. And some people need to get kicked off their high horse. You know what I mean? This world, you're completely right. This world has way too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Right.
And half of you don't know what you're talking about because you're not reading the instruction manual. You know, it clearly says that we are to be equipped to be servants. Literally says it in black and white. Oh man, I think that's such a good point. I'm glad you guys brought that up, man. It's real deal. It is a real deal.
Well, and so we are, though, equipped to be, you're right, and that's what we're supposed to do, all this and that. But it's not just that. I mean, when we understand that it's not about necessarily always about what we do here on earth, it's about what we achieve. What we're doing on earth is so we can achieve our prize in heaven. It's not for here. It's for what is to come. So when we're storing up our riches in heaven and we're getting our spots and we're getting our places, we're getting our spots there, the work here is easy. It's easy then because it's like, this is not for this anyway.
I see it the opposite way. Because I think that our place in heaven is just a byproduct of automatically just showing love down here. Once we get to a mature enough state, where we're automatically just continually following God and asking Him what to do.
Thing.
Yeah, it just happens. You know what I mean? It's that's my opinion anyway. I don't necessarily worry about the riches in heaven because if I understand that, then I'm going to have to mature and grow enough to do things while I'm here to show His love. And automatically, I mean, it's like whenever you sign up on your taxes or whatever, and you put the 0 exemptions or whatever, you're storing up money for tax season. You know what I mean? You don't think about it until tax season comes.
No, I think another thing is the word says that the humble will be exalted, the exalted will be humble.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So if you have humility, then that's when you can move up in that hierarchy to a role of leadership. Under the king, but it's still a role of leadership. The best leader is the servant first.
True.
If they're a good servant, the king will notice them and say, you know what, I've got a different role for you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that's when we progress as Christians too. God will give us new projects, new things to do as we do the last thing that He asked us to do. Because we did the will of God, because we did the last thing He asked us to do. So then He steps us up, you know, and all of a sudden you find yourself 3, 5, 10 years down the road and go, wow, look how far He brought me.
Right.
You know,
But
it all started as being a servant.
For sure. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. That is awesome. No matter how you look at it, being a servant to God is an awesome, amazing thing. Being unified in love under Christ, nothing like it. So the challenge is to love one another like you've never been hurt, and remember to be a servant. Be an Indian. It's a lot less stressful, I think. You know what I mean? When you're trying to outdo anybody else or whatever, just live for God and be a servant, for sure. I'd like to thank everybody for watching today. This concludes our episode of OKaye, Let's Be Frank. Shout out to Daddy downtown Newport. New reality. Thank you guys for Metro Baptist Church every Friday at 6 o'clock. Check it out. New Hope Christian Center. Don't forget Good Friday, carrying the cross. Refinery Nazarene Church.
Close enough. Close enough.
Everybody who loves and supports us, hey, if you want to partner with OKaye, Let's Be Frank, check us out on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. Reach out to us. We'll tell you how you can do that. Thank you for listening to another episode of OKaye, Let's Be Frank on 1320 AM WCVG. The boys. Check us out Monday. Bye.
Ah.
Yeah. OKaye, Let's Be Frank. OKaye, Let's Be Frank. 1320 AM WCVG proudly brings to you the OKaye, Let's Be Frank show. We're going to dive in.